Hello everyone, and welcome to another edition of the In the Ring Show with your host, Devious Damien. And this is going to be my review for Monday Night Raw, last night, June 11, 2012. So we kick off the show with John Laurinaitis coming out in his stupid little people power scooter. And he starts talking, and all of a sudden here comes Vince McMahon, his music hits, he comes out. And Johnny Ace extends his hand. Vince McMahon says he's not going to shake his hand. He doesn't know where it's been. And Vince's like, so why shouldn't I fire you right now? And Laurinaitis basically says, well, you know, I've done so many things for Raw, and it's coming up on the 1000th episode, and blah, blah, blah. And then a Fire Johnny chant, the Fire Johnny chant starts up. And then Vince talks about how that Fire Johnny's actually the #1 trend on Twitter right now. And then out comes Sheamus, talks about how, he furthers Laurinaitis' claim that he's a friend, and blah, 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 and how, he's done such unfair things to Sheamus. And so then basically it ends with Laurinaitis saying that he's going to find an opponent for Sheamus, and McMahon says that it better be an impressive opponent, and the whole show better be impressive, otherwise he's fired. So, after the break, we get Lord Tensai versus Sheamus, and Sheamus wins in a okay match. It seems like WWE isn't as high on Lord Tensai as they used to be, because Sheamus gets the win here, and Tensai was steamrolling everybody, and then Sheamus and John Cena both beat Tensai on back-to-back Raws. And then you go to a backstage segment, Vince says that's strike one. And then Vince says, okay, well, who's going to face Sheamus for the World Heavyweight title? And Then you get Vicky saying there's 2 former world champions, and Teddy Long corrects her, says there's 4, with there being Christian, Dolph Ziggler, Jack Swagger, and Great Khali. Teddy puts them in a fatal 4-way, and that's set for later in the night to determine the #1 contender. So then we come back from break, and Tensai is beating up his little worshiper, which I didn't really think accomplished anything. I think it's just really stupid. And then we get Seth Green talking about, the whole Seth Green flashback to where he was on Raw. And then R-Truth, he's being interviewed by Matt Striker, and he talks about how Cena's going to beat him he talks about how John Cena's going to be Big Show at No Way Out. Here comes Big Show, knocks him out. And there you go. So, after that, Santina comes out, and it's Santina and Layla against Beth Phoenix and Ricardo Rodriguez, and a really stupid match. Phoenix and Ricardo get the win here after a glam slam on Layla. Then we get the flashback on SmackDown to where Hornswoggle imitates JR. And then we had several segments throughout the night where David Otunga's trying to kiss up to Vince McMahon and so forth. And it was just all stupid segments. And so then we get Daniel Bryan coming out and talking about how he's going to win the WWE title at No Way Out, and talks about AJ a little bit. And so then he keeps rambling on, and Punk comes out and calls him goat face, and he throws a few other insults in there. So then Laurinaitis announces that Daniel Bryan and Kane are going to face CM Punk and AJ later in the night. And now And they go, and then they do a stupid thing. They show the little thing where King orders a pizza on the Domino's website, and he's showing the pizza tracker, and blah blah blah. And next is the Fatal 4-Way for the World Heavyweight title, and not really much of a surprise that Dolph Ziggler won, because that's been talked about ever since Alberto Del Rio was knocked out of No Way Out. It seemed like Ziggler was going to win, so I'm not really surprised. So then Sheamus comes out, and they both have words, and Sheamus holds his title up, and blah blah blah. And so then they have a little backstage segment where Natalia's talking to Vince about the WrestleMania match with Bret Hart and the Hart family being there and yada yada. So then we get the Funkettes, or whatever they're called, Cameron and Naomi. They do a little backstage segment where they dance with Vince after they beg Clay to be back on Raw. Vince says no, and then they start dancing together. And then after that, Vince turns around and there's Zack Ryder's jaw almost to be scraped off the floor, and Vince takes Zack Ryder's phrase of "woo woo woo," you know it, and walks away. So after that, out comes Ryback, and he fights two more jobbers, and once again he squashes them. No big surprise. More Goldberg chants. Yay. So earlier in the night we had a segment where Kofi Kingston demanded to fight Big Show. Laurinaitis accepted, except he made it a cage match. So then, right before the match, we get a thing where Vince puts on JR's hat and basically mocks JR's Bell's palsy, and which was a stupid segment if you ask me. And Vince warns Cena not to go to save Kofi, and Cena says, we talked about it, Kofi's going to handle his business, I'm going to handle mine. And then Vince McMahon tells David Otunga that nobody likes somebody who kisses someone's ass, and then of course they showed William Regal looking kind of a sheepish look on his face, like, oh, so yeah. So the cage match starts, and for the most part, it was Show just tearing Kofi apart. Basically, Kofi does have a couple of bright spots. He almost wins, but Show just he hits the WMD, walks around, yells at the crowd for a minute, then finally walks out the cage and wins the match. So then we get Sin Cara versus Kurt Hawkins. Sin Cara wins. Nothing really ecstatic about that. And then they have a little backstage segment with Vince McMahon and Daniel Bryan, where they both talk about their self-made men, and then the segment ends with Vince McMahon telling Daniel Bryan, I don't think I've ever finished anything in 18 seconds. Basically making a little sex joke towards Daniel Bryan. So then out comes Heath Slater. Heath Slater's in the ring, and he's talking about it's Slater time. Here comes Vader's music hits, and Vader basically just beats the crap out of Slater. Wins rather easily. And I guess it was like a good mark-out moment for people who remember Vader. So then anyway, then you got a backstage segment where AJ freaks out, and then Punk's calming her down, and she gives him a kiss on the cheek. And so there's they have the match. AJ and Bryan win. Or excuse me, AJ and Punk win, after AJ accidentally gets tagged in, and she skips around Kane, and she starts making out with him, and then all of a sudden she tags Punk back in, and Kane walks away, leaving Punk to hit the flying elbow on Daniel Bryan, and they win the match after that. So the next is the decision where should Laurinaitis be fired, and so if Vince brings security out, Laurinaitis says, I would never hit you, Vince, and Vince says he's a comedian, saying that the security wasn't for him, it's for Johnny. And out comes Big Show, and basically stops Vince from firing him. Out comes John Cena, and just does. Comes out and he makes a fat joke about the Big Show and calls Laurinaitis a chain-smoking cripple, and so on and so forth. And then there's a little, and then Vince McMahon says, "Well, if Show can't win at No Way Out, they're both Laurinaitis will be fired." And then Cena grabs, or Show grabs Cena by the throat. Cena ends up ducking the WMD, and it hits Vince. And then Cena's trying to get help for McMahon, while JL, John Laurinaitis, trying to get Big Show out of the ring. And that was basically how the show ended. Now, my thoughts on the show were, it was okay. I'm not sure how I feel about Dolph Ziggler winning the Fatal 4-Way. Don't get me wrong, Dolph Ziggler is a very good in-ring talent, but I don't see him as the guy who's going to beat Sheamus for the title. So, I'm kind of iffy on that choice. Raw was okay. I'll give it a C. It wasn't the best Raw, but it wasn't the worst. It was at least somewhat enjoyable, so I'll give it a C. So, what are your thoughts on Dolph Ziggler? Tell me your predictions for No Way Out. What'd you think of Raw? Subscribe, like the video, comment down below. For this edition of the In the Ring Show, this is Devious Damien signing out. Good night, everybody.